action. And simply put, the only reaction that the United States should take is a formal designation of Pakistan as a state sponsor of terror and a designation of Asim Munir as a terrorist. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Anything else is a betrayal of India and a betrayal of our relationship. You can pretend that Pakistan isn't a terror sponsor, but it remains a terror sponsor no matter how much we try to normalize it. You know, it was shocking, but this just goes to show you that you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. You can pretend that Pakistan isn't a terror sponsor, but it remains a terror sponsor no matter how much we try to normalize it. As for the timing, just as there was a terrorist attack when Bill Clinton went to India, so too does it seem that Pakistan wants to draw attention away from Vice President J.D. Vance's trip to India. The United States shouldn't let Pakistan get away with it, and we shouldn't pretend that this is some sort of spontaneous action. And simply put, the only reaction that the United States should take is a formal designation of Pakistan as a state sponsor of terror and a designation of Asim Munir as a terrorist. The only difference between Osama bin Laden and Asim Munir is Osama bin Laden lived in a cave and Asim Munir lives in a palace. But beyond that, the two are the same, and their end should also be the same.
Right. You talked about General Munir from Pakistan. I'm sure you must have seen his speech about Kashmir being Pakistan's jugular vein. A warning sign clearly, out in the public domain. What indications point to cross-border involvement from the Pakistani side when we see that speech?
Well, certainly that speech seemed to green light terror. Asim Munir, General Munir said, this is like Kashmir is the jugular vein. What India now needs to do is to cut Pakistan's jugular. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There are no shortcuts anymore. Asim Munir gave a green light. We know that Pakistan is home to myriad terrorist groups, from Lashkar-e-Taiba, Harakat al-Mujahideen, many, many others. And unfortunately, because of a lack of concerted counter-terror action, because Pakistani diplomats are playing the West for fools, we now have an expansion of the problem, not only in Pakistan, but frankly in Bangladesh as well. But when we look at what happened, how do we know it's Pakistan? The intelligence will come in over the next few days. I'm sure that there's going to be some signals intelligence, there's going to be human intelligence, but we also know, both based on geography, based on precedent, and based on the ideological swamp that is Pakistan's ISI, that they are logistically and ideologically the only country that is the suspect right now.
Lots of experts are drawing parallels with Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hamas and the intelligence, the connections between the two. Do you see shared targeting tactics, specifically attacking civilians and targeting civilians of a particular religion?
You know, that is exactly what went on. When we had the October 7th, 2023 massacre in Gaza, when we had the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, it was directed specifically against Jews, and not only against Jews, but among the most liberal Jews who were most prone to wanting peace and normalcy with the Gaza Strip, targeting a vacation resort, targeting, if you will, middle-class Hindus, is evident that the Pakistanis are trying the same tactic. Now, it should be no more successful for Pakistan than it was for Hamas, and frankly, it's now the duty of India to do to Pakistan and to Pakistan's ISI what Israel did to Hamas. It's time to wipe out the leadership of the ISI, to treat them as a designated terror group, and demand that every country that is an ally of India, every country that is an ally of the world's largest democracy, do the same. There should be we should stop embracing the fiction that the ISI is a legitimate military organization. We need to convince Washington that the ISI should be treated like Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or for that matter, like Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force in Iran. In fact, what I would say is if President Donald Trump, during his first term, can target Qasem Soleimani, the head of Iran's Quds Force, for his role in planning the murder of countless Americans, then there's no reason why Prime Minister Modi can't use the same example and demand that Asim Munir go the way of Qasem Soleimani. He should be one drone away from being permanently removed from the battlefield.
You did talk about what India should do next. How will this impact the India-Pakistan relations moving forward, and how do you see India retaliating? I mean, what is your impression?
Well, first of all, it's important to have, when it comes to India-Pakistan relations, look, ideally, Indians and Pakistanis would live at peace with each other. But good relations need to be based upon reality. They need to be calibrated to reality. They can't be based on wishful thinking. And perhaps when it comes to India's outreach to Pakistan, or for that matter, India's outreach to the Taliban, they're based a little bit too much on diplomatic wishful thinking rather than a demand of real reform. The fact of the matter is there is no moral equivalence between India and Pakistan. India is a thriving democracy, a multicultural, multi-sectarian democracy. Pakistan is an Islamic state and a state teetering on the brink of failure. The reason why Pakistan sponsors this sort of terrorism is not for Kashmir, like Pakistani authorities say. Rather, it's to distract Pakistanis from 70 years of the failure of their government. And the way I used to explain it when I would teach for the U.S. military is if only 10% of Indians or 15% of Indians were educated and middle class, that would still be greater than the entire number of Pakistanis. And when I've been in Pakistan multiple times, including at the National Defense University in Islamabad, what I see is an obsession with India, which isn't matched when I'm in New Delhi. New Delhi wants the best possible life for Indians. They want their economy to thrive. Pakistan is obsessed with the outsider because they know that deep down they are a hopeless case.
Right. You did talk about, the problems that Pakistan has been facing for the last 70 years. Is Pakistan really using this incident to deflect or derail from its domestic problems, which are plenty?
Well, Pakistan's not unique in this. Many countries will try to precipitate a conflict in order to distract their public from their own failing. What's essential then is that India raise the cost of this sort of tactic so that Pakistan will not make the same mistake twice. The fact of the matter is, while many people compare what happened in Kashmir with what happened with Gaza and Israel, the fact of the matter is, if India doesn't punish Pakistan and the ISI severely, then you're going to have a mass casualty incident that isn't numbered in the dozens, but is numbered in the thousands, such as we saw in Israel. It's essential that India step up without any sort of it's essential. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. When Iraq invaded Kuwait, Margaret Thatcher said to George H.W. Bush, "Don't go wobbly on me now, George." She understood that if there wasn't firm action in response to Saddam Hussein's aggression against Kuwait, that it would unleash a deluge of similar aggression elsewhere. Right now, Prime Minister Modi should be saying to President Trump, "Don't go wobbly on me now, Don."
Now, could this attack's timing also relate to Pakistan's recent FATF grey list removal? What do you have to say on that?
Absolutely. Look, the problem with removing Pakistan from the FATF grey list is the removal was based more on a desire to diplomatically please Pakistan, to appease Pakistan, than it was based on the facts of the case. And this is the thing, unless you calibrate your policy towards reality, you're going to get burned. And the international community, diplomats involved in FATF designations, may want to have a nice cocktail party with their Pakistani counterparts, but this sort of virtue signaling in which they try to appease Pakistan, it only gets people killed.
Now, how will, after Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan and now this attack, is India's neighbor returning to its terrorism epicenter reputation?
Is Pakistan returning to its terrorism epicenter reputation? Frankly, it never left. Pakistan has long been the epicenter of terror. The question is, how many countries are going to join the axis, which is now centered in Islamabad? It is safe to say that if there is a new axis of evil, its headquarters are in Islamabad.
Has the U.S. intelligence community identified likely perpetrators? And what's your take on President Trump promptly condemning this attack? And how do you see President Trump going forward, handling this situation in terms of the India-Pakistan issue?
Well, let me put it this way. If the United States knew about this attack in advance, we would have done everything possible with our Indian counterparts to counter it. So right now, I suspect the same thing is going on in the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters, as is going on in New Delhi, and that is to look at what they missed and try to assign blame. And the list of suspects is actually pretty short. That said, what's the second part of your question? Sorry.
Talking about how would Trump handle this going forward?
Okay. How would Trump handle this going forward? That's really the test. Over decades and across administrations, the United States and India have been developing closer ties, closer relations. But this really is the test. If Trump isn't simply virtue signaling, if he isn't simply trying to be polite, there really is no ifs, ands, or buts. Prime Minister Modi must tell Donald Trump, designate Pakistan and designate Pakistan today. Anything else is a betrayal of India and a betrayal of our relationship.